We actually got a ARN. I have put my papers. We've started. We're already 1 month out. I'm like, Vignesh, can you please put your papers? We started. I mean,
Oh my God.
No, you started. I was still deciding.
he's a Tambram and I'm a Gujarati, so that raises a lot of eyebrows as well.
Eventually, I moved on to core family office practices and working with larger families for their investments, wealth, and everything. Right. So that's been my journey, and I've always sort of wanted to build an organic practice that moves away from the crowd. After 7 years of going ahead with the name, we got our validation when a prospect from down south actually agreed to meet with me because of the name, and he said otherwise I wouldn't have agreed to meet with you. So that actually gave us a lot of validation and confidence in that.
How do I save for my daughter's education or for my daughter's marriage or my son's marriage or same for a car? So these are not the conversations. The conversations are not about also returns. Okay, I want 12%, 15%.
Someone's worked 10, 20, 30 years, built an empire, and they've built everything for this, and you get to make whatever, a percentage on that, and you get to be happy with that. So it is very, very important that you do a great job for that percentage you're making.
नमस्ते, मैं हूं आशीष और स्वागत है आपका द एमएफडी स्पॉटलाइट में। आज हम मिल रहे हैं दो ऐसे फाइनेंस प्रोफेशनल से जिनका नाम है रौनक और विघ्नेश। इन्होंने मल्टी फैमिली ऑफिस सेटअप किया है। हमारी इंडस्ट्री जो कि वेल्थ मैनेजमेंट इंडस्ट्री है, इसमें मल्टी फैमिली ऑफिस एक गोल्ड स्टैंडर्ड होता है। काफ़ी सारे ऐसे हमारे एमएफडीज़ हैं या जो दूसरे फाइनेंस प्रोफेशनल्स हैं, वो उनका एक अल्टीमेट ड्रीम होता है मल्टी फैमिली ऑफिस सेटअप करने का। इनकी कंपनी का नाम है कॉन्शियस मल्टी फैमिली ऑफिस, और आज हम बात करेंगे उनकी जर्नी, उनकी सोच और वो इम्पैक्ट जो ये क्रिएट कर रहे हैं अपने क्लाइंट्स के लिए। सो वेलकम टू द एमएफडी स्पॉटलाइट, विघ्नेश एंड रौनक।
Thank you.
So, Vignesh, let's start from the name itself. You have a very unique and a very meaningful name. So, just tell us a backstory about this now.
Absolutely. Thank you firstly for having us here.
Sure.
It's really nice to be here and spend this time with you. We obviously went through a bunch of names like anybody who starts out does. And some I liked, some Ronak liked, and it was really hard to round in on one. And then eventually we rounded in on conscience because I really resonated with the Tamil translation of it, which is Manasakshi, where we use that word very sparingly in Tamil because it's not something that comes around so easily, right? And we said, let's try to have that gold standard for building the business and the practice. That's how we, sort of finalized. And after 7 years of going ahead with the name, we got our validation when a prospect from down south actually agreed to meet with me because of the name, and he said otherwise I wouldn't have agreed to meet with you. So that actually gave us a lot of validation and confidence in that.
Oh, that's great. So, Ronak, what is your view on this name? Why would you agree to this?
I mean, obviously, with what Vignesh mentioned, so it obviously has a lot of meaning. It has a lot of depth, and health and wealth are two very important aspects for people. I mean, so trust is something that is the second most important. The first you take care of your health, and obviously wealth is the second part. So it resonated quite well for us, and so that's.
No, he didn't agree with it for a long time. It took a while before he started. He said people might not be able to pronounce it well. Those things happen.
Which is the case. I also struggled.
Yeah, which is the case. But then I think it's nice. I mean, once people know about it, it actually spurs a question. People actually ask a question saying, "What is his name? What do you?"
Yeah.
So then you actually have to explain to them what the thought process is.
It became a good conversation starter.
Absolutely.
Exactly. I can imagine that. We had a conversation about it a couple of times already. So I can imagine. So let's talk about you now, both of your background. So how did you meet, and what is your background before you started the company?
Sure, I've always been in commerce, in finance, and even during school days, that excitement about trading in stocks, or I tried my hand with foreign exchange, everything before even knowing anything about it. So that concept of making money from money is something that I could always relate to, and I mean I enjoyed doing that, right? So
Nice.
one thing that I've always been very clear about is to do something that I'm excited about always. So that's how I started the journey in finance, and started out with taking CA because that was the logical route after 12th, and then realized audit and accounting is not my cup of tea. Moved away to valuations, due diligence, fundraising, and then landed up in investments and wealth management finally. And thanks to my alma maters and wherever I worked, I think the base was pretty great, right?
Nice.
I think that makes or breaks someone's
Yeah.
career. The first few companies that we are part of,
Right.
the bosses we have, the managers we work with, I think that very grateful, and God's grace, it turned out great for me, and I'm sort of grateful for that always. Then eventually I moved on to core family office practices and working with larger families for their investments, wealth, and everything, right? So that's been my journey, and I've always sort of wanted to build an organic practice that moves away from the crowd per se. That's how that thought was always there, but until I met Ronak, it didn't really materialize, and it sort of happened. And I've been someone who always does a pros cons list before taking up any decision, but this was probably black sheep in the whole bucket because it was a very impulsive move, and I think I'll probably let him tell that story.
Of course.
It turned out well now, so I'm happy.
No, so yeah, so before I maybe tell you my background, it's actually a very funny story, and also not a lot of people know about this. So Vignesh and I were part of the same group company. And so when I joined, I actually went and showed my parents about, see, this is the company I'm going to join. I showed them the website and everything. And in my first week, I realized that, oh, this is a group company. I joined another one. So it was a little bit of a shocker for me also. Oops. But then, it was, we were doing most of the same stuff. But then I was more inclined towards, to join the company that Vignesh was part of, the group Vignesh was part of. So I reached out to him on LinkedIn, saying कि भाई ये मेरा resume है, can you please take this forward to your team, and I want to join there. So much better, I can add a lot of value if I was there. So that's how we exchanged notes. We spoke to each other. I tried to understand in terms of how they operate there and how they operate here. ज़्यादा कोई फर्क difference नहीं था. But it was, you could see those differences. But then in those interactions, one thing came out really clear, that the clients, we were bringing our own clients, and we were very picky in terms of what the company had to offer, and we were very picky in terms of what we want to take to our clients. Yeah. So that was something that we resonated, where we connected also, saying, okay, why aren't you doing this? Can we do this? I think this is better. So those were the conversations. And so the other thing that was also very clear was that the clients that we onboarded didn't come because we were part of XYZ company. They came because we were Vignesh and Ronak. So this was my pitch. I mean, Vignesh was my first sale actually, which I was able to successfully convert after at least 8-9 months. I think that was the timeline. Yeah.
Fair enough.
So I was writing my CFA. I mean, I was writing my CFA level 3, and just 1 month before the exam, boss calls me and tells me that, Ronak, finish your exam. Let's do this. So that's how I started. So so my background, obviously, I've been born and brought up in Chennai entirely. So did my schooling here. I'm a Gujarati, so that's another. So he's a Tambram and I'm a Gujarati, so that raises a lot of eyebrows as well. So that combination is a deadly combination, is what I'm here to say. So, but though I'm a Gujarati, I'm the 3rd generation here in Chennai. So I obviously like my sambar more than my dhoklas. So I'm a South Indian more than a Gujarati. So did my schooling here, college. My first job was in a Big Four. Did risk consulting there. So that was more in terms of the communications or the conversation that you have, where with your top level, executives or people who actually are decision makers. So that was my first interaction in terms of how you actually go out, present yourself, and along with that, I was doing my PG in BSc Global Financial Markets, took up my CFA post that. So completely been with the financial services space from the very beginning of my career, and post that took up a role in a wealth management firm, and then after that, 2019 we started Conscience together. Yeah, so that was the year.
He was still put up because he had decided, he moved out, he started. I still hadn't made up my mind.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
he got really impatient. He was like, "Are you really doing it or not?"
we actually got a ARN. I have put my papers. We've started. We're already 1 month out. I'm like, Vignesh, can you please put your papers? We started. I mean,
Oh my God.
No, you started. I was still deciding. Because at home it was a different scenario, right? I come
Yeah.
from a typical Tamil Brahmin family where
Right.
dad's an engineer and they wanted me. The first shock for them was I didn't take up engineering. And then I convinced them with that. And then there was a housing loan and then
Yeah,
everything was going
correct.
well. And then I said, no, I'm starting out, I'm quitting. And so they just couldn't grasp
my
what I was
God.
trying to do. And on top of that, to partner with a Gujarati was not really what my parents would have wanted me to, but I think it obviously came with some sense of complementary skill sets
Of
and
course.
trust,
Yeah.
right? So
Right.
thankful for that.
That's wonderful. So, what's your background, family background? Just tell us about where did you grow? You also grew up in Chennai.
Yeah.
Where did you do your schooling, your college? Who is in your family?
Sure. Being here always,
Uh,
very south-focused education, and the way we study also is reflective of our roots and culture here, and
Correct.
that's how I've always grown up. And so, like I said, dad's an engineer, and mom
of
used to be
course.
a teacher. So they come from a mindset where you study really hard, get to passing on that knowledge, which is absolutely great, right? I mean,
Correct.
we need more of that as well.
Correct.
And I have a younger sister, she's a psychologist. And so, as a unit, we've always been super conservative. And I had to sort of come out of that comfort zone a lot because, be it public speaking or being in front of people,
Right.
even forget sales and all that, even talking to people without inhibitions was a very big change for me, right? I had to really tune myself, fake it till I make it, sort of a thing. uh, I'm still getting there. So, but thankful to them for the stress on staying grounded, the culture about not letting your roots go away.
Right.
I think that is really important, and it's part of who I am today. So that I'm really grateful for. And so as a family, we've always been here, and so that's also another thing that sort of made me look at South as a very predominant region to set up a practice, because having traveled extensively in all parts, I still found a lot of merit in catering towards a market that's barely looked at. So that also helped us later on in setting up the practice.
What about you, Ronak? I'm assuming being a Gujarati family, getting into business would be like a natural thing to do, right? Or was it not?
the conversation that you have at home, we are taught about the concept of byaj, interest, in a very young age. So everything is anything you overlay, it's always you have this interest calculation in terms of the capital. So at a very young age, you have these conversations at home, and you have to get to that from the start. So
True.
so I mean, for a very in my college days itself, so I've not taken any money from my family, from my dad. So it was more in terms of try to do this by yourself. So I've gone to shopping malls, distributed pamphlets for one day sort of a thing, or I've done demos to schools where there's a new desktop in Dell. So I think these are like presentation skills. I'm just now I can connect those dots.
Correct.
So you've done that. So in fact, I've got a couple of small businesses also. I mean, I've sold T-shirts. I've gone and bought wholesale made T-shirts, and I've sold that. My sister is a designer, so I would make her do some designing work, and I would go sell that to, and you actually learn a lot.
Correct.
In fact, I went to a Sindhi family where I went that with the teaser saying that ye le lo. So I got it for 100. I told them I'll sell this to you for 240. Like बेटा आप छोटे हो आपको मालूम है, but ये हमको भी मालूम है किस तरह से खरीदना है बेचना है. Then ended up just I will buy this for 120. If you want to sell it, let me know. So, okay, I'll come back to you. So I go outside saying okay, super namak crunching. ठीक है यार बहुत दूर से आए हुए हैं. We have to carry this again. So might as well just finish this off here. So you actually learn a lot of this, a lot of these things when you go about doing a lot of this. And also I also had to get married, very early. So I was married when I was 24. And it was a love marriage. So I had this also to become stable and rich quicker, and I need to have that stable sort of a
Right.
lifestyle or a
Right.
job. So family business was not the right transition for me. So I had to do a lot of jugaad to get to that. But obviously, my family was super supportive with whatever I was doing. My girlfriend then, my wife today, we've been together for almost 16 years today. So married about 8 years. So so जो भी थोड़ा जुगाड़ करके whatever we used to earn, she used to only order lime mint cooler, just to make sure that I'm in that budget. We used to maintain that budget. So we used to do all of that.
Right.
Phone case का business चालू किया था and all that. So
Oh God.
very very different stuff along with what I was doing in the financial space. I mean, obviously I had a demat account with in my mother's name. अगर आपको if you want how to lose money in 60 days, you should definitely reach out to me because I did that. It was superb, this FNO gives you that that kick. So and it was a lot of money, 2010 to blow up about a couple of lakhs in your mother's account.
Ouch.
In 2 months. So that was something. But then, in spite of that, to have that support from the family, we're not like we are from the, from a very, sought after financially as well. So it took some time. But yeah, I think things turn out.
You
well.
found your way.
Yeah.
You found your way.
Yeah, we did.
So let's talk about your practice now. Just help me understand when you use the word multi-family office, right? Or let's say family office for that matter. What do you really mean by this?
To be honest, it's just a glorified word in the industry where in olden days, in the south at least, there's someone called a Kanakku Pillai.
Sorry?
Kanakku Pillai.
Uh-huh.
It's a Tamil word where there is an accountant who takes care of everything for the family. And that, obviously in the West, they used to call it a lot of other things. And a family office is basically where you have one single focused advisor or a professional who is your liaison between your auditor, your investments, your wealth, your lawyer, everything, right? So they are that unbiased unit in-house that takes care of all these professional needs for you. And they are someone who's the most trusted in the family. So that's how, in my opinion, the whole family office concept started. And in the West, obviously, it took off much earlier where there were larger families, where wealth needed to be more structurally managed. And so there are two types of family offices. One is a single family office where XY, he or she built a large business, sold, came into a lot of money, and they hired about 10, 15 people in-house to set up a single family office where those people will become a unit to manage the money, to manage taxes, to manage accounting, to work with lawyers on various stuff. So that's a single family office. When the same professional unit does it for multiple families, it's called a multi-family office.
Correct.
So in the last few years, obviously, that concept has taken off quite well in India. At least when we started out, when we actually kept the name as Conscience Multifamily Office, there were probably just one or two MFOs in the south.
Absolutely.
Actually. And so that was again a conversation we had. Do we really want to be called that and make our target segment very small and sort of very narrowed down, or should we just be a larger consortium of doing mutual funds, stocks, everything, right? So we still took that conscious call of saying there is a gap, there needs to be more of this, so let's try and do whatever we can. So that's how the whole concept also took place.
I mean, even if I may just add here, even the firms that actually existed doing this, this niche sort of a service offering, it was more towards larger families, larger with more wealth. But there is a segment of families who also are maybe not hundreds of crores. They are 10 crores, 25 crores, 30 crores.
Correct.
But they go through with the same sort of an issues that a larger family also will go through. So they are currently managing their banking relations, multiple wealth advisors, and they've been bombarded with a lot of financial stuff on a daily basis. So they also required or had that need to have one single focal point of maybe somebody who could tie this all down together, a one-person contact who could do that, maybe help them transition from where they are today to a larger segment of the family. So that was the gap that I think we stumbled upon after multiple other conversations. So that was something that I thought was a good thing for us.
So, Ronak, let's talk a little more about the process of family office advisory, right? Can you help me understand what is the difference between a typical wealth manager and what really a family of and what happens in a family office?
So yeah, there are quite a few differences in terms of your approach when you do these conversations with the family that you are speaking with. So in a family office, the conversations that we have with the family, it's not about how do I save for my daughter's education or for my daughter's marriage or my son's marriage or I'm saving for a car. So these are not the conversations. The conversations are uh, not about also returns. Okay, I want 12%, 15%. So it is more in terms of they already have the assets. How do you safeguard those assets? It's more in terms of legacy planning. The conversations are a decade ahead, or 2 decades ahead. It's about trust formation. What decisions that you take, and even you also think about, things that are at least a decade away. So, what will be more relevant, maybe 10 years down the line, 15 years down the line, and you're trying to put those rules, and you're trying to set up the whole thing today, thinking completely out there in the future. So yes, wealth management also you are seeing something ahead, 5 years down the line, 7 years down the line, but the conversations are very very different. What we have with our sort of the family clients that we speak with. So that's predominantly the difference, I would say. So our conversations are more in line with what the business setup is. How can we, how can our service or what value add that we bring to the table, saying how can it add value to what their current setup is. So it is in those terms that the conversations are aligned to. I'm sure Vignesh will have.
But the lens itself is quite different, right? Because it's not about the underlying work that all of us do, but it's more about the lens that we have while speaking to a family or working with them. So obviously all of these families have businesses.
Right.
Either it's a generational transfer of wealth or it's about a stake sale happening, professional takeover, and the family comes into money. So this is a typical first line for a family office setup, right?
Correct.
So then how do you, going before that, how do you create that line and ring fence your personal versus private,
Yeah.
and have that in place so that whenever the event happens, eventually, if it happens, we are best suited to take care of it, right? So that it's really fun and interesting to work with these people because you learn a lot, right?
Of
These are
course.
people who've spent decades in a business, understanding industries and creating a lot of change in whatever they've done, right? So for us, that initial days it was more about we would be in awe when we spoke to families that have been there, done that, and to be able to contribute to that in a very significant value-adding way. I think that made a lot of happiness and value add for us. So in a typical multifamily office setup, it's also not just about going at it from a product-led standpoint. From being a product-led ecosystem to an advisory-led or a very value-adding, unbiased, consortium-led practice, I think that's the major difference between.
Of course.
Yeah.
So, Vignesh, what I can get from this is the outcome, what you have, which can be in terms of products, is because of what the conversations and what process you have set up, right? So, you're not going from a product standpoint, the way it happens in some of the earlier outfits, which you also mentioned. So, I also know that you have a very large mutual fund business, but beyond this, what all products do you really have which helps your family achieve the objectives which you sit and define for them?
Got it. Great. I think that's the main question we asked ourselves when we started out, because we didn't want to be yet another person talking to people about, so do mutual funds, let's do stocks, let's do this, that.
Correct.
Because we've seen enough of that. We
Right.
come from an industry which is very, the job of product manufacturers is to keep churning out products, right? That is not going to change. And the industry is obviously driven by that, which again, you have to be in an acceptance mode with that. So what can be different from our standpoint is what we also try to answer, and in twofold, right? One, we obviously didn't want to go at it from a top-down approach where XYZ products are there. Let me show it to them. One, they will be okay and they'll buy, and that's job done. That again, we've seen enough of that where it might or might not be good, and regulatory changes or any of those things are not going to change how I am as a person when I am a wealth manager, right?
Correct.
It has to come from me, irrespective of the license I hold,
Correct.
the experience I have, the brand behind me. It has to be basis, can I do an unbiased good job
Correct.
with that person's money? So one of my super bosses in my early days, right, he told me something that stuck on forever. He said, someone's worked 10, 20, 30 years, built an empire, and they've built everything for this, and you get to make whatever, a percentage on that, and you get to be happy with that. So it is very, very important that you do a great job for that percentage you're making. And that really, it was a small input, but it made a lot of change because, which is right, I have not built a business, they have. They've spent 30, 40 years of their life doing it. The least I can do is do a good job, right? So, and they obviously need to build that trust over time. So we said, let's not go the way of raising funds, trying to build a wealth tech firm and playing the valuation game. All that, we were very conscious of not going into that space. But we wanted to be a very boutique organic setup where we could have easily take that call of being unbiased.
Got
It's very easy to say I will not do products and all that, but eventually you will have to
Correct.
give products. That's where money goes finally, right?
Correct.
So how we do that, the process of doing it is what we've tried
Correct.
to differentiate in whatever way we can. And your next question on how do you build an ecosystem of doing it without the process of setting it up? Because we were also lean and started off that way, we could create an open architecture platform where I am not doing an empanelment based, have a product reckoner that goes out monthly to my clients as well as advisors. We will have a very open architecture platform where for someone, a colleague who joined us, in fact, 5 years back, he brought an opportunity from Gujarat where it was a credit opportunity into a segment where we liked it, we took it up, we did the diligence, took 2-3 months, and we allocated money. Like I wouldn't be able to do this normally in a larger setup, in an institutional setup, even though it was a good opportunity, right?
Correct.
Because it didn't meet a lot of criteria, it was not part of the product reckoner.
Right.
So those things we had as a base to build out an organic. It doesn't matter if we lose out on some large opportunities that are not being distributed, but if we could do smaller, nice, high quality allocations, then I think that made us really happy. So we sort of stuck to that, and it's actually been continuing so far. And we'll see how to keep sourcing more of that as well. Sometimes it comes from the client as well, right? Somebody already has decided to put money somewhere. They come to us for evaluation and our thoughts on the same. If we like it so much, then we'll say, can we actually come together as a consortium and invest in it? That's also happened a lot.
Nice.
In fact, it's more strategy driven than product driven.
Correct.
And
Correct.
we asked these questions to ourselves saying, if we had to invest our money in whatever we are suggesting, would you do that? And that actually made a lot of difference. And it helped us keep things very simple. And I mean, it had also become a point where, we started to show skin in the game. So there were a lot of instances where we ourselves put in our own money, the firm's money, and go to the client saying, we put our own money. This is something that we also stand by. So we've done that. And that's become another talking point for us when we speak to a client as well. So that's something that...
Yeah, to answer on other allocations apart from, of course, mutual funds was bread and butter for the first few years, where when we started out, that was a no-brainer, right? You can't go wrong in telling people to put money in good mutual funds. So we thought, let's keep that as a base, and then eventually build out practice in other segments where, again, there was a gap, right? There were a lot of people distributing other products like bonds and deposits and all of that, but very few in terms of doing structured opportunities, in terms of doing maybe pre-IPOs that are not really the fancy ones that come out in the market, but some fundamentally good, solid opportunities that you don't really see out there.
Correct.
So we thought, why not set up, a good practice in those aspects as well, where either one, you obviously are solving a problem of fund allocation over and above your vanilla products, and two, also to see if you can make that higher kicker of wealth creation through these opportunities, right? Especially down south, there are a lot of families who prefer cash flow generating allocations where I need monthly or quarterly interest paying options. It might or might not suit their risk profile, but end of the day, they want that cash flow. And we as people who are professionals, we have to solve for that, right? I can't be like, no, you have to still do equity. If cash flows is what they want, then We have to find opportunities that meet their criteria. So private credit is something that we've done a lot.
Wow.
Even when markets are up and down and people don't have that kind of time to stay invested, we've done a lot of short-term 12, 18-month opportunities that are in the private credit space. Obviously, fundamentally sound companies that pay out a higher interest rate than your physical deposits and vanilla products, right? So that's worked out well. A lot of our assets are in that segment as well.
Got it. So let's now talk about your business, your team, your system, your processes. So if I understand correctly, you have about 15 members in your team, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So how do you really find out people? What kind of role you tell them to do? I mean, other than you, are they also involved in client-facing activities? Just give us some idea of basically how your typical day looks like.
Sure. So the first 1 year after starting out, so we started out 2019 and obviously 2020 COVID hit, right? So we didn't have really much time to figure out you do this, you do that, let's go this way. Honestly, there was no journey that is charted out. There was no vision board. We just had broader goals in mind. But it helped both ways. Because of COVID, we couldn't go out. Outreach was low. We didn't meet a lot of new people. But it was early days. It also gave us that time to figure out systems, basic fundamentals, what to do, what not to do. So that 1 year we used it well to figure out platforms to use. That's where AssetPlus came in. So a lot of those things we figured out in the first year. And then eventually we also had to take time to see where our strengths lie. And I like to spend more time with people, more time talking to people to hire them or work with them or client facing. And generally that's something that I've always enjoyed, to learn from others' journeys and to be more broader focused and to obviously have a vision in mind doing that. And Ronak has always been someone who's very meticulous, who's looked at opportunities without any bias to say there's no gray, there's always black and white. And that actually helped, do the first few years right. And so then we also figured, okay, then he has to do more of products research, build out that practice internally where I focus more on people, employees, new regions, outreach. So it just happened organically. And we also needed the time to figure out how to do that best. And the major part of actually sticking out and figuring out a system to work with, obviously since mutual funds was the first thing that we did, right? So we had to find out a platform that served us without having to do multiple things, because as it is we were sort of lost in the air. And AssetPlus was something that really helped us with the basics. We demoed at least 25-30 products, must be more. And we obviously, being in that age group, we also wanted something more new age, contemporary, and to move away from filling out forms. And as private wealth managers anyways, we have to do everything from couriering documents, filling it, to AMC, KYC, everything we have to do. There is no I will do this, I will not do that. Unfortunately, today's generation doesn't get that as much. They will be like, I'll do only research. That's never the case. So we did look at a lot of products, and eventually it was early days for AssetPlus as well.
Yeah, of course.
And Vishrant and Avnish did a great job out of IIT Madras, and they built this product. And because we could relate to a lot of things initially, I think that probably played a role in us trying to go ahead with the demo. And I still remember, I think it was late 2019, and Vishrant said, why don't you guys come over, let's just do a demo, look at the product, and if you like it, we'll talk more. And that non-pushy way also sort of gave me the conviction that, okay, even though it's new, let me just try it out. And now he is super busy, he doesn't have time for me, obviously. But those days, he actually spent a lot of time with me in patiently answering why we did what we did, how can tech solve for problems. And I also had advice from a lot of peers in the industry to say, do it yourself. You are anyways going to get large AUM on your own. That confidence is there. Why do you have to go and panel in a platform when you can actually build it out yourself? Have an independent way to do everything that you want to. But that, to be honest, we didn't really have that clarity or conviction back then, because back then it was just about solving for time and efficiency. I said, if someone's doing that in a great way, let me just partner with them. It's not just about numbers, but trust over a longer time. it obviously played out great for us, and we've built
Great for us as well.
practice. Yeah. So that obviously took some time, but I'm glad we made. In hindsight, everything is great, but when we did take the decision, it was a very iffy
Yeah, of
call.
course.
Yeah.
In fact, Vishrant was the first RM, you would say that.
Of course.
Yeah, I could call him anytime, he would pick up. It was,
Now
it
things
was
are very
nice.
different.
When we talk about family office, I'm sure it is not only about investments. What all comes under the purview of family office?
So obviously, so family office investments become a core function. And then to support that, you have taxation, legal, and
Yeah.
with all of this, you also have conversations around succession planning, estate planning, succession planning, philanthropy as well. So I mean, these are families where obviously you need to take this matter with them as well. You're not just saying for yourself, but then you are lucky enough to sit down and actually have these conversations, saying, okay, where do you want to actually create an impact? What is more? How are you more passionate about different subjects that the client might be okay about? Thinking from those point of view as well. So one is obviously to safeguard yourself in terms of setting up your practices, your investments and your structures in order. And other thing is also to how do you go about setting up a more passion-driven or more purpose-driven setups or activities that you want to take up. So these are the conversations also that you can have with these families that we do. In fact, these are so so deep. These conversations actually get to. I could maybe give you an example.
Sure.
I was part of a conversation of a very old man who was drafting his will, and unfortunately their kids don't see eye to eye with each other, and these are difficult conversations that you need to have with the family as well. So
Correct.
he put down his will. He mentioned the company's name, our name, my name in the will, saying, okay, this is what goes to each of these brothers and sisters and how it will be divided. And fortunately, we manage the entire family individually as well. We manage the entire family. So after he passed away, so just because our name was mentioned in the will,
Your
and
name was there.
my name was there. I mean, I was supposed to be a part of the conversation when the lawyer was actually reading out the will, and to help them with the the demarcation of what goes to whom. So I mean, there were no fights. I mean, things were done in a very amicable way because you had somebody that you trusted on the other side.
correct.
So each member of the family trusted us in terms of, okay,
Wow.
these guys were part of this conversation, and thereby there need not be a reason why you want to contest a will. So that is something that so these are the moments where you actually feel that you honestly are here to do some serious stuff, and you need to be on top of all of this, and you need to also be sensitive to these matters. So
Right.
that was something that was an eye opener in terms of you could actually have gone through like a long court battle, but that didn't happen. So these are things that you don't generally discuss. But these are extremely important conversations that people should have.
Absolutely.
And money is something that is a very disturbing or uncomfortable conversations at home. So I think we're just trying to make that. We're there to do the ice-breaking session within the family, to have these conversations with them and make it, something which is supposed to be happen, very intuitively should have happened. Is what I
We
feel.
keep saying trust building, but the actual proof of that is when such families actually trust you in communicating these things.
Sure.
It obviously it's not something that comes naturally to people, and it takes time.
Of course.
But so when it does happen, that's when, in fact, the conversations that I have with the clients I manage directly, and such conversations around passing on wealth and all of these delicate information, we don't even discuss with each other, because that person has told me that because it's me. It's not conscience. It's not my firm. It's not anything around me. It's because it's me.
Correct.
Right. So that we have to respect, and
Correct.
so I'm really touched that people actually build that relationships who are not family as well, right? So it just puts more pressure on us to maintain conscience and brand name and all that. But there is a lot of value add and learning, and There are situations where we have to be very delicate in between family members when things aren't great. And how do you actually maintain professionalism as well as the human element of actually
Correct.
sticking to fundamentals and first principles, right? So that way, as a multifamily office, we also have to do all of these things which make our day or break our day. So it's interesting nevertheless.
Oh, no, this is
And the
incredible.
other point on philanthropy that you mentioned, that again is a very interesting thing, right? If I'm a very product driven, I just go talk about products, and no one's going to have that conversation about what his or her personal purpose, interest, intent in life is. All that conversations will never happen. So I have clients who actually, whatever interest that comes every year, they actually donate to a temple. And whatever growth that happens, it's for the family. So such clear demarcation and clarity of thought happens because I also talk to them with that same wavelength, right? And
Exactly.
so that really sets the tone for their family, not just now, at least for the next 2-3 generations. So that's also something that really enjoy doing and adding value wherever.
I mean, these are very impactful, obviously, conversations that we have
I
with the
can
clients.
imagine.
But there are other sides also. I mean, you're doing SIPs so that the guy can, he's saving up for his private jet fuel. So, there are SIPs that we do that he's saving up for that. So,
God.
so it's a very different conversation. So it's a different kind of a setup that you're talking about. You can't even think about a lot of these things. So, yeah.
So this is incredible. I think the kind of example you gave, it's just too hard, right? And it's a process and it takes time. So this is great, Ronak and Vignesh. I think building trust of this level is absolutely incredible. But I'm pretty sure this road has not been easy for you guys, right? So just help us understand the struggle you face, especially while setting up this kind of a family office system.
So obviously, when we started out, we actually hired a one-seater co-working space. And सुबह मैं जाता था ऑफिस बैठने, फिर लंच के बाद विग्नेश used to come. So we used to try to manage a lot of that. Then move to a 2-3-seater sort of a co-working space when we got a couple of folks to
The
join
first few
us.
months I was working from home. He wouldn't come home, so we had to eventually take up space.
So वो वैसे था obviously. So that happened, and then today we have our own office. We have 12-15 people at any point in time working, doing everything from they are client-facing folks, operations, research. But back then, obviously, when we were just two of us, it was not like we had our roles defined. Ki, what Vignesh will do this, I will do this. So we actually, fun that you asked, we actually read this in a book. So where, how do you define, how do you structure your day? You asked about how do you structure your day initially as well. So you divide this into like 3 buckets. Like, we were 2-3 hours, we were the CEO of the company. Then we became the COO of the company. And then we became the sales head of the company. Okay, so CEO of the company, you are in terms of, okay, how do you see the business coming in the next, say, maybe a month or quarter? So it is in that's sort of a thought process, trying to note down कि क्या करेंगे, कैसे करेंगे and all that. CEO is more in terms of operations. We had a lot of conversation with AssetPlus.
Correct.
How is the reporting supposed to be? So those are the conversations on the reporting side. And sales side, we'll actually have to get down to do the work, to speak to prospects, to speak to clients. That way, were very, very humbling for us that we started out. We had, quite a few of our existing clients who actually pushed us saying, Ki, why don't you do this? That was the initial conversation because we were only doing products, and the clients are like, you guys are qualified. You guys are, you guys know a lot of other things as well. So yeah, just don't come to me with a product. Why don't you tell me in किसके नाम पे करूँ, कैसे करूँ, कौन सी entity से करूँ, which is more tax efficient. So these were questions that we were anyway addressing. So that was the initial, thought process when we started. I mean, we missed out mentioning that. So that is something that, so we were doing a lot of things, and we were dividing our day initially in these 3 buckets. I think that actually really helped us in terms of, be a sales, do the sales part, do the operations part, and the business owner part. That is something that really worked out for us initially. And then as and when time passed and we hired a lot of folks who were doing specialized stuff, and then our roles became quite clear in terms of what we were comfortable with and all that. So it was more in terms of, Vignesh was completely towards people running the show of the firm entirely. And I was more in terms of products, research, and what is actually ready. How do you build from ground up in terms of how do you start this? So the challenge here was because the kind of clients that we were speaking to, these are all obviously smart people, been in the industry for a very, very long time. So you can't just go out there saying, ki, you have to be at the best of yourself.
Correct.
And doing that. So we had to show that in terms of our conversations, our research was our take in terms of how we approached a particular investment or approach a particular mutual fund, for example. So it's very, very different in terms of how industry looks at. We don't look at returns per se. We are also people centric. So for us, it was more in terms of who the fund manager is, what the team is like. So we are more focused with that rather than so that was our that was our take in terms of how do we want to build in terms of structures and
And the constant question about there's no big brand backing
Correct. Of
what
course.
you're doing, and
Yeah.
how do you propose to balance out that act? I mean, there's no two ways to answer that.
Correct.
Obviously, there's no brand. We've just started, yet to even register it. But I mean, it gets built over time.
Yeah.
So that question we've heard about 2000 times for sure. But it also worked the other way, right? I am not part of one brand. I don't have to stick to
Correct.
that brand's lens alone.
Correct.
I can look at the whole industry. I can take a step back.
Hmm.
There's always the big picture in mind. So that's also why consciously we said, let's not, try to grow very fast very soon by raising money and doing all of that, because we wanted to build it very organically. That way I would never compromise on having a micro lens.
Correct.
So that, but it was very difficult because we, at least 8 out of 10 people that we met initially, because they didn't know, they knew us, they've obviously heard about us somewhere, or it could be a cold meeting and a fresh prospect, but there's no brand that they know, right? So the conversion ratio was pretty low. And it was first 6 months, we were still not making the money that we wanted to cover basic costs. Like I mentioned, that housing loan EMI is going, and dad was freaking out at home, and I had to somehow tell him things were great, and
Right.
I
In
just
fact-
prayed that it
in
did.
fact our first capital contribution, both of us put 50k, and then we just took that money out to buy our laptops. So bank mein paisa nahi tha.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
but it did take a few months, obviously.
Of
and
course.
we were ready to, we had that mentally prepared, saying 1 year, even if things don't go our way, we'll still stick to it and not
Nice.
back out. So grateful that it worked out. Yeah.
So now let's talk about your vision. So what really you want the company to evolve into over next 10 years, 20 years, 30 years? What really motivates you or excites you for, yeah, this is what we really want to go out and achieve?
It's a very, even though it's a very generic thing that everybody has in mind and answers, I think the goalpost keeps moving. Right?
I know, of course.
Every year it keeps moving, right?
Of
So
course.
5 years back, if you had asked me the same question, I might not have given the same answer. But today, when you ask me, I think 3 things that I'm really grateful for. One, obviously, my God and Guru, who've always constantly been there, and parents, and the early set of clients who actually took that call of saying, I trust them. I know they will do a good job, irrespective of the brand and whatnot. So the first 25 people that came with us and who placed that trust, I still manage them personally myself. I don't give them any. I ensure they're always well taken care of, and truly grateful, because even if I had been on their side, I don't know if I would have taken a call to. Honestly, that's the truth, right? So, and the third, obviously, to people I learned the craft from my ex-bosses and the ecosystem I was part of from scratch, right? I had a career in investments very later. I was part of audit, accounting, and all those things where investments was just a part of it. So the entire thing to have fundamentals solid and great was very important. So I'm truly grateful to these 3 people in my life. And as part of vision, I've always wanted to build a practice that I mentioned was not a crazy growth story, but more a long-term, like how we advise clients on their businesses and their family wealth transition. That's how we wanted our practice also to be, right? Where it needs to be boutique, it needs to be people-centric and unbiased at all points of time. And also one thing that I was very clear on was I have only so much time in life. I can probably spend my personal time with 100 families, 200 families, whatever.
Correct.
that needs to be great, right? I don't want to compromise on that. So that I've always been very careful about who I work with, who I hire, who I work with, which product manufacturers I'm working along.
course.
All that has been very conscious because eventually forget the money part, even though that's super important. I would have a great takeaway of doing something right, and 10 years later, all those things will stand out better than my AUM, my numbers, number of people, and all that, right? So that was always the backside of the vision. And in terms of the practice per se, if you had asked me again 6-7 years back if I will be wanting to manage 5,000, 10,000 crores, I wouldn't have really imagined it. But today, because we've crossed about 2,000, 3,000 crores already, and we have that conviction, and because goalposts now moved to 5 and 10, I think we will probably want to build a nice organically growing practice that way. 100 crores in 2018-19 was amazing, right?
Absolutely.
But today, people are like, why you should do this, do that, grow to more regions, go to other parts of the country and all that. So obviously, we will stick to our set goals and basics, but there is a long journey ahead. And personally, also, I would like to be able to replicate this journey that we've had for a lot of people managing money, right? There are a lot of wealth managers out in the industry who've been doing the same thing for a long time, and who I know that they could do a much better thing with, right? So if I can create that army of holistic advisors,
Wonderful.
right? Call whatever term you want to put it to them. If I can create that boutique army in a very south-focused manner, at least for now, I think that would be my biggest takeaway. Yeah. If I can do that to 100 people, if 25 people do that to 100 people, that's impact enough that we will be happy with.
In fact, funny you mentioned, so the other point, like we talk about star fund managers and all that. So this is one segment that completely gets cut off in the conversations that you have. You have a client and you have the star fund manager or somebody who's running a outfit of sorts. So beach mein jo, the guys who are actually enabling it are completely taken off. I think you will see that change a lot with what we're doing here today.
Of course.
You will see this change a lot, and I think you will have a lot of star wealth managers also. I think.
No, actually, I'm 100% sure. I can never imagine a fund manager's name in the will.
Yeah, I mean,
That's also why it's important for platforms like AssetPlus to be there. I'm sure we need a lot more in the industry to enable these star wealth managers, because their expertise should be in what they are best at, right? They shouldn't have to worry about will units match back end mein what's happening, all that they should not spend time. It's very redundant time spent, right?
Absolutely. Wonderful. So great, Ronak, Vignesh. I think it was a fantastic conversation. Now we'll have some fun conversation. Up for it?
sure, absolutely.
Is there a choice?
All right. So I'm going to ask some questions. You don't get time to answer it. You have to just answer it instantly.
Sure.
All right? Okay. Okay. So Ronak, tea or coffee for you?
Tea.
What about you?
Coffee.
Okay. Cat or dog?
Dog.
Dog.
Okay. Mountain or beach?
Beach, I guess.
Beach.
Both.
Okay. Got it. So tell us one thing about him which you don't like.
It takes a long time to get back to me for a lot of things. In fact, even this same thing, we spoke about it at least a week back, and then it's like वो government office में कैसे अपन इसलिए देते हैं, and then it takes a long time to. So it takes a extremely long time for us to wrap things up. So in fact, I tell my team also, खत्म करो काम, तुरंत भेजो, because boss has to give a tick off and whatever has to go. So,
I should have taken the same time in partnering with him. I didn't do that.
you actually did. You actually did.
Okay. What is one thing you like about him?
I think he's very straightforward. He doesn't mince words.
That is very clear.
Yeah, evidently.
Okay. What is one thing you want him to improve?
Probably communication.
Okay. Do you agree?
I speak quite well with my clients, but obviously in these settings, with him I'll get a little nervous also. But because he's my English teacher. तो वो grammar correction आ जाता है.
Oh, is it?
Before he used to ask
Is he a
me
grammar
all-
Nazi? Is he a grammar Nazi?
No, nothing. But before he used to ask me inputs and all. Now Claude, GPT, everything is there. He
Yeah, I
doesn't.
don't need to do that.
So I don't
every
even-
email will actually go first draft to Vignesh and he makes all the corrections. Not to sound too direct. And then it changes.
Now his emails are better than mine.
All thanks to Claude.
Of course. All right. So one difference in the way you do business. One big difference. One contrast.
Contrast. I mean, it's entirely contrast. That Guju Tamil wala.
Gujarati Tamram, what
Yeah,
more
so-
do you want?
So I think I mean I don't have to. Vignesh obviously will say this. I mean he gets to make very big presentations, board meetings, and all this, and he has to convince, literally put all the analytics in front of the client before the client decides. I just tell इसमें डालना, इसमें डालना, इसमें करना. That's it. वो करना ही है. There is no questions. So I get very frustrated with the process that he goes through, but I feel sorry for him also sometimes.
It's also because of the client segment and difference in people. And for him, so I love his ecosystem where they come forward to help, refer, and all that. For me, I have a problem asking, so it takes time. I don't know how to say no. I don't ask often, so that difference is there.
Great. One word on AssetPlus. One from you, one from me.
I think trustably new age. 2 words, but yeah.
Okay.
I think it's a clear problem solver. It is the earlier days of Claude. People would say that.
Wonderful. Great. So thank you, Ronak. Thank you, Vignesh. Thank you very much for being part of this conversation. I had fun and I had a lot of things to learn. And I'm sure for people who are going to watch this, they will also have a great time in listening to your conversation. So thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And I think if not for this, we also wouldn't have had a lot of this conversation today. Thank you for that.
Sure.
Thanks for making us speak.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.